Welcome to the Legend of Zelda Timeline Part 4, Link's Failure. In Part 3, we explored the history of the future that Link left behind. After Link defeated Ganon, Zelda sent him back in time, unintentionally creating two separate timelines. One in which Link was gone and Ganon eventually returned, with no hero to stop him, and another where Link returned to his childhood and warned the kingdom of Ganon's plans. So now that we've explored both timelines that Zelda created, where do all the missing games go? Let's go back to the final battle in Ocarina of Time. Link had gathered the power of the sages and had gone to face Ganon in combat. Now, has this ever happened to you during this battle? Well, if it has, then you, the player, has in fact created an alternate third timeline, where Link, the hero of time, never defeats Ganon in the Ocarina of Time. Ganon took the Triforce of Courage from Link and the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda, and gained his true power as the Demon King. In a final stand against him, Zelda and the 6 other sages of Hyrule were able to still seal Ganon and the Triforce away in the Sacred Realm, but the legend of the Hero of Time never spread among the people, and peace in Hyrule was very short-lived. Since Ganon had ruled Hyrule for years, stories of the power of the Triforce waiting inside the Sacred Realm spread throughout the world, and greed took over. Groups of power-hungry people pushed their way into the Sacred Realm, not realizing that Ganon had turned it into a desolate, nightmarish realm, known as the Dark World. They were turned into monsters and fell under Ganon's control, and after building a powerful army, Ganon broke free from the Dark World and led an invasion into Hyrule that left most of it in ruin, in a conflict that came to be known as the Imprisoning War. The Knights of Hyrule fought bravely, but the majority of them were annihilated. During the fighting, the 7 sages discovered a way to seal away Ganon and his army inside the Dark World once again. The evil was gone, but the kingdom was in complete ruin. Many of the citizens of Hyrule were wiped out, and the power of the sages weakened. These are some of the darkest times the kingdom of Hyrule would face, and it would be ages before it would return to its former glory. Eventually, Hyrule would rebuild and peace would slowly settle back onto the land. Hyrule Castle was the center of power in the kingdom, and the royal family watched over the people. And a powerful wizard named Aghanim had gained the king's trust and was appointed as the royal advisor. But secretly, Aghanim planned to break the seal on the Dark World that was placed by the 7 sages ages before. He betrayed the king, killing him, and imprisoned Princess Zelda of this time in the castle dungeon. Using his dark magic, he took control of Hyrule soldiers and captured 6 maidens who were the descendants of the sages. Aghanim sent them to the Dark World one by one in order to use their powers to break the seal. After sending the 6 maidens to the Dark World, he just needed to send Princess Zelda to finish the ritual. But before he had a chance to do so, Zelda sent a telepathic message to a young boy named Link. This leads us to the events of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Link and his uncle lived in a small house near Hyrule Castle. While in bed, Link heard Zelda's plea for help, and so did his uncle. The two were descended from the Knights of Hyrule that helped seal Ganon away. And fulfilling that responsibility, Link's uncle grabbed his sword and shield, told Link to stay in bed, and went off to free the princess. Worried about his uncle, Link decided to follow and found his uncle gravely wounded in the tunnels under Hyrule Castle. Before dying from his wounds, Link's uncle gave him his sword and shield, and Link set off to rescue the princess. After helping her escape from the castle and getting her to safety, Link was told he needed the Master Sword to dispel the barrier Aghanim created and face him. He needed to collect the 3 pendants to prove his courage: the Pendant of Courage, Power, and Wisdom. After collecting all 3, Link traveled to the woods where the Master Sword was resting, and it accepted him as its master. With the Master Sword in hand, Link rushed to Hyrule Castle and discovered that Aghanim had captured Zelda and sent her into the Dark World, breaking the seal on Ganon and opening a passage into the Dark World. And Ganon began gathering his power in preparation for his return to Hyrule. After Link defeated the wizard, he escaped into the gateway to the Dark World and pulled Link into it with him. During his travels, Link had acquired a magical mirror that would let him go back and forth between the light world and the dark, and a moon pearl that would keep him human in the Dark World. Link's first task was to rescue the 6 maidens that were taken here, and Zelda, who'd also been transported there. He needed the power of the sages to enter Ganon's tower and stop him for good. After rescuing the girls, they used their combined power to destroy the barrier around Ganon's tower, and Link was able to enter. But Link didn't find Ganon when he reached the top of the tower. The evil wizard Aghanim was waiting for him, and was the final obstacle before Link could face his master Ganon. Aghanim collapsed and revealed himself to be a vessel for Ganon. Ganon, in his true form, was waiting inside the Pyramid of Power, at the center of the Dark World. After finding the entrance at the top of the pyramid, Link faced Ganon, who had brought Hyrule to ruin so long ago. Link accomplished what the Hero of Time failed to do. He destroyed Ganon, and the Triforce of Power left him. With Ganon destroyed, the Dark World returned to its former glory as the Sacred Realm. Link discovered the complete Triforce and touched it, wishing that all of the damage that was done to Hyrule be undone, and the people who had lost their lives be brought back, including the king and Link's uncle. The Triforce was brought to Hyrule, and it was back in the protection of the royal family, which hasn't been the case since Hyrule was established after Skyward Sword. This ends the events of A Link to the Past. Not long after, hidden away in the desert, a plot was brewing to resurrect Ganon. The twin witches known as Twinrova, who were responsible for raising Ganon into adulthood, were planning to resurrect him. These are the same witches that were defeated by the Hero of Time during the events of Ocarina of Time. To resurrect Ganon successfully, the ceremony required that they light the flames of destruction, sorrow, and despair, and needed a sacrifice. In order to do this, they sent Onox, the General of Darkness, to the land of Holodrum, and Varen, the Sorceress of Shadows, to the land of Labrina. Sensing a great evil returning, the Triforce summoned Link, the same boy who had destroyed Ganon, and transported him to the land of Holodrum. This leads to the events of The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons. Link woke up in this land which was unfamiliar to him, and he was discovered by a dancing performer called Din. Suddenly, a darkness surrounded Din and her group of performers. General Onox kidnapped Din, who was actually the Oracle who safeguarded the 4 seasons in Holodrum, known as the Oracle of Seasons. Once Din was taken away by Onox, the seasons of Holodrum fell into chaos. Link was given the Rod of Seasons, and with the aid of the Maku Tree, the guardian of Holodrum, he set out in search of the 8 essences of nature, in order to restore the seasons back to normal. After collecting all of the essences of nature, Link set out to Onox's castle in the northern reaches of the land. Onox showed Link his true form, the Dark Dragon. And Link destroyed him, rescuing Din and returning the power of the seasons back to the land of Holodrum. This ends the events of Oracle of Seasons. Link then found himself transported to the land of Labrina, also unfamiliar to him, and this leads us to the events of The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages. In this new land, Link meets the Oracle of Ages Nehru, who controls the passage of time in Labrina. The evil sorceress Varen appeared and possessed her body. With the Oracle of Ages gone, the flow of time was disrupted, and strange events began happening all over the land. With the aid of the Maku Tree of Labrina, Link equipped the Harp of Ages, which had the power to manipulate time, and set out to restore the 8 missing essences of time. After finding all of them, Link entered the Black Tower and faced the true form of the Sorceress Varen. After defeating her, he rescued Nehru and the flow of time returned to normal to the land of Labrina. But while Link was distracted by the events in Holodrum and Labrina, Twinrova was lighting the flames necessary to resurrect Ganon. All they needed was to capture Princess Zelda as a sacrifice and light the flame of despair. Realizing this, Link borrowed the power of the Oracle of Seasons and the Oracle of Ages and disrupted the ritual by throwing himself on the ceremonial altar. The two witches fused into Twin Rova and Link defeated her, as she sacrificed herself to bring back Ganon. But since the ceremony hadn't been completed properly, Ganon returned, as a mindless, rampaging beast. Link brought down the out-of-control Ganon and destroyed him once again. He brought peace to Holodrum and Labrina, and said goodbye to the people he had met on his journey. This brings to an end the events of Oracle of Ages. Link wanted to improve his skills and decided that he would travel the world in search of adventure. He boarded a ship and set sail for the next land in which he would train. This brings us to the events of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. After training in other lands, Link was on his way back to Hyrule, but was caught up in a storm and his ship was destroyed. Link awoke and found himself washed ashore on an island called Koholint Island. A girl who lived on the island called Marin found him and brought him to her house to recover. Link attempted to leave the island but was told that there was nothing beyond the ocean. Then a mysterious owl appeared to him and told him that the only way to escape the island was to awaken the windfish that slept in an egg at the top of the tallest mountain. Link needed to find the instruments of the sirens hidden on the island to awaken the fish. In a shocking twist, Link discovered during his adventure that the island he was on existed within the dreams of the windfish. Waking the windfish would cause the entire island and all of the people living on it to disappear. None of it was real, but the monsters that attacked Link only did so to preserve themselves and the island. After successfully gathering the instruments, Link stood before the windfish's egg and made the difficult choice to awaken it, so he can return home. The island completely disappeared as the windfish woke up and it flew off into the sky. Link found himself back in the ocean with the wreckage of his ship, and his whereabouts from this point forward have yet to be revealed. This ends the events of Link's Awakening. Hundreds of years passed, and a new Princess Zelda and a new Link reside in the Kingdom of Hyrule. Stories have been passed down through the centuries of Link's battle with Ganon, and this brings us to the events of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Link grew up as the apprentice of a blacksmith, and he was tasked with delivering a sword to a captain at Hyrule Castle. While delivering the sword, Link encountered a mysterious figure named Yuga, who transformed a young nun named Ceres into a painting. This young girl happened to be a descendant of the sages that helped seal Ganon away in the Sacred Realm. Link tried to stop this from happening, but was knocked out during the battle and was found by a merchant named Ravio, who gave him a bracelet in exchange for being able to stay in Link's house. Link let him stay at his house, and he went off to find Princess Zelda to tell her what had happened. Link discovers that Yuga is kidnapping the descendants of the sages and transforming them into paintings. Worried this might be a plot to bring Ganon back, Zelda sent Link to go find the Master Sword and stop Yuga from fulfilling this mission. He needed to find the 3 pendants that the hero of legend uncovered to prove himself as the Master Sword's wielder. During his quest, Link came face to face with Yuga, and he was also turned into a painting. But thanks to the power of the bracelet that Ravio had given him, Link was then able to return to his normal self, and gain the ability to merge with walls and move around in the form of a painting. After finding the pendants and gaining the Master Sword, Link returned to Hyrule Castle. And witnessed Yuga transform Zelda into a painting. Yuga escaped through a dimensional crack and Link followed behind, ending up in another kingdom called Lorule that was a decaying version of Hyrule. In Lorule, Yuga used Zelda and the power of the sages to resurrect Ganon, and absorbed Ganon's power into his being. Hilda told Link to go rescue the 7 sages and free them from the paintings in order to regain the Triforce of Courage. With the help he receives from Ravio's weapons and supplies, Link saves all the sages and returns to Lorule Castle. Hilda tells Link that her ancestors destroyed their Triforce, and ever since then the kingdom of Lorule has been decaying, revealing that she used Yuga in order to get all the pieces of the Triforce together and restore her kingdom. She commanded Yuga to take the Triforce of Courage from Link, but Yuga betrayed her and turned her into a painting. Link faced Yuga, now infused with Ganon's power, and was able to defeat him, freeing Zelda and Hilda from their paintings. Hilda was bitter over her loss, but Ravio appeared and revealed himself as Link's counterpart in Lorule. He convinced her that her actions were wrong, and he had secretly sought out Link to help him stop her. Link and Zelda returned to Hyrule and used the power of their Triforce to restore the Triforce in Lorule, and Princess Lorule wished that her kingdom be restored. Link returned the Master Sword to its resting place once more, and this ends the events of A Link Between Worlds. Shortly after, trouble was brewing in the fashion-obsessed kingdom of Hytopia. The princess of the kingdom, Princess Styla, was loved by all, except a witch named Lady Maud, from the nearby Drablands. The witch despised the princess's fashion sense and cursed her with an ugly jumpsuit that was impossible to remove. The princess was distraught and isolated herself away from her citizens, and the kingdom wept for her. Since only chosen heroes could enter the Drablands and defeat the witch, the king of Hytopia, King Tuft, sent out requests to surrounding kingdoms asking for help. Craving adventure, Link answered the call and traveled to Hytopia in disguise so nobody would recognize him as the hero that saved Hyrule. This brings us to the events of The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. Since his description fit the legend of the Triforce Heroes, this Hytopian legend says that the hero who will bring everlasting peace and style to Hytopia would have pointy ears, sideburns, side-parted hair, and would have the power to form a totem. Given the power to split into 3 and able to form this totem, Link was transported to the Drablands and conquered its many challenges, until he came face to face with the witch, Lady Maud. Link defeated the witch and used the powers he gained to return Princess Styla back to normal. The Kingdom of Hytopia celebrated Link and he returned to the Kingdom of Hyrule. This ends the story of Triforce Heroes, an odd little tale in the Zelda universe. Generations passed, and the royal family of Hyrule used the power of the Triforce to help the Kingdom of Hyrule expand and continue growing stronger. One of the kings during Hyrule's expansion was afraid that the Triforce would be misused after his death. To avoid this, he hid the Triforce of Courage and placed a spell on the land. The spell made sure that a crest would only appear on the hand of the one worthy of using the Triforce of Courage's power. This king had 2 children, a young prince and a young princess named Zelda. He felt that his son wasn't worthy of using the power of the Triforce, and passed on the Triforce to Zelda in secret. The king passed away, and the young prince became king of Hyrule, but no crest appeared on his hand, and the Triforce he inherited was incomplete. The king's advisor, an evil wizard who was perhaps a servant of Ganon, convinced him that his sister, Princess Zelda, knew where the missing Triforce piece was. She denied knowing anything, knowing that the wizard would misuse the power of the Triforce, and the wizard placed a sleeping spell on her. Zelda crumpled to the floor, and the king, filled with grief and regret for his actions, hid her away on an altar in a castle to the north, in the hope that she would one day be awakened. This became the story behind the actual Legend of Zelda. The king changed his ways and tried his best to rule the kingdom fairly, but without the power of the complete Triforce aiding him, the kingdom started to decline. The Triforce of Wisdom continued being handed down from generation to generation, but the existence of the Triforce of Courage and the legend of the sleeping Princess Zelda was forgotten. The passing of the ages saw Hyrule continue shrinking, and the proud kingdom that once covered a vast area of land eventually shrank into a small single kingdom. This brings us to the events of the original masterpiece, The Legend of Zelda. In the shadow of Hyrule's decline, Ganon somehow returned with the demon army and attacked what remained of the land, stealing the Triforce of Power that was once his. Princess Zelda of this time split the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 pieces and hid them in different corners of the kingdom. She sent her nursemaid Impa to go find the hero that was destined to destroy Ganon. Fearing that the hero would be found, Ganon kidnapped Zelda and sent his demon army after Impa. Impa found herself surrounded by monsters, and a young boy just 10 years old appeared and rescued her. His name? Link. Impa explained what had happened, and Link made the decision to stop Ganon and rescue Zelda. Link conquered the 8 dungeons where the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom were found, and after combining the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom back together, Link made his way to Death Mountain and used its power to find Ganon. The Triforce of Wisdom and the Triforce of Power were restored, and Zelda was rescued. Link helped rebuild Hyrule during its reconstruction, but peace was still very far away. Even though Ganon was destroyed, his minions still roamed the land and were trying to find a way to resurrect him again. 6 years passed, and Link had grown to the age of 16. One day, the crest of the royal family appeared on Link's hand, and confused by what that meant, he showed it to Impa. She instantly remembered the story behind the legend of Princess Zelda, and took Link to the North Castle where the Princess Zelda from the legend had been sleeping for hundreds of years. Convinced that he was meant to wake her up, Impa gave Link 6 crystals and a map telling him the location of 6 ancient palaces that held the secrets behind the location of the Triforce of Courage. Ganon's army discovered they could only resurrect Ganon if they were able to kill Link and sprinkle his blood over Ganon's ashes. The demon army attacked the kingdom in an effort to find Link and end him. This leads us to the events of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Link left the North Castle and proved his courage by traveling to all 6 palaces and placing the crystals he had received into the stone statues hiding deep inside. Once the crystals were in place, the path to the Great Palace was revealed, where the Triforce of Courage was hidden. Fighting through Ganon's army, Link made his way to the Great Palace and faced its guardian, the Thunderbird. Defeating the Guardian, Link had one final test before he could earn the Triforce of Courage. He had to face himself in the form of Dark Shadow. After defeating his doppelganger, Link obtained the Triforce of Courage, and combining it with the power of the other 2 pieces, he prevented the resurrection of Ganon and woke the sleeping princess from her slumber. With all 3 pieces of the Triforce back together, peace and prosperity finally returned to Hyrule, and the kingdom began to heal from its slow downfall. This concludes the adventure of Link, and the alternate sequence of events started when you, the player, fails to destroy Ganon in the Ocarina of Time. And the stories in the future of this timeline are waiting to be explored. Now that we've gone over the 3 established timelines in the history of The Legend of Zelda, I hope you have a better understanding of how each game intertwines with each other. With its branching histories, this is truly a franchise that can tell stories for all time. Make sure you join me in Part 5, the final part of the Legend of Zelda timeline series, where we try and guess where the upcoming Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild fits.